Okay. On. Right. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. We carry on with Kitab al-Zakah. We had started with Zakatu Bahimat al-An'am, and we started off with Zakah on camels. Alam Ghir, if somebody has a farm, or they have horses, they have camels, and they have rabbits, and they said, do I have to pay Zakah or I don't? What do you say?
They have to pay zakat if they are sahibin aswab.
They pay Zakah on everything. They pay Zakah on camels,
on
horses,
the camels.
and rabbits. Okay, so
on the
it's
camels.
about camels. What conditions should be fulfilled for them to pay zakah? Naeem, do we tell anybody who has camels pay zakah or no?
No, Sheikh, you have to ask them what the intentions of keeping the camels are first, and then.
So when is a person? Yeah, when does zakah drop? When is zakah not compulsory upon this person? If they're keeping camels for what?
Is it for transporting vehicles? I think was one of them.
Transport. So those days they used to use a camel in order to travel. Example, from Mecca to Medina. These camels were specifically for traveling, for holding goods, holding luggage like that. Or they were used specifically to work in the fields, to plow, etc. So here there's no zakah on them. Zakah becomes compulsory upon a person who's keeping camels if they're keeping them for the milk and in order for them to reproduce, to increase. Because here they breed in camels, literally. Who was here? Umar from India. Tell me, if somebody has 13 camels, how much zakah do they pay?
They paid 2 sheep.
2 sheep. And
Yes.
24 camels, Umar, second Umar al-Madani. 24 camels. Sheikh Umar al-Madani. ما أسمعك. 4 sheep. 4 sheep. طيب. Ibrahim, tell me what's the difference between bintu labun and bintu makhad? It's all revision. If you take the first few minutes of revision, those of us who forgot, we can remember. Those of us who weren't here, at least we able to reach the lesson. What's the difference between bintu labun and bintu makhad? Which one's older? Tell me.
Bintu Labun is older.
To labun is old.
It's 2 years and above.
Naeem, what do you say? Naeem.
Sheikh, sorry, you said it was Bintul Labun and Bintul?
Bintu makhad and bintu labun. Which one's older?
I think it's Bintul Makhad.
Makhad. Mim, kha, alif, dad. Bintu makhad. How old is Marcel? Saeed. What can I call you? Saeed. طيب, Sheikh Saeed. Have you been following?
I have watched a few lessons, yes.
Okay. Tell me, how old is Bintu Labun?
I don't remember.
You don't remember? Okay. Anybody who can tell me the 4 different camels with zakah? Yeah. Alam Ghair, start going order. Tell me how old they are.
Sheikh Binti Makhad is above 1 year and less than 2 years. Binti Labun is about 2 years and less than 3 years.
And then? Tell
And
me
then
the last.
Hiqa is 4 years, 3 years above 3 years, yeah. And then the last one is Jaza'a, which is 4 years old.
Ahsan. طيب,
Jaza'a,
let's draw your zakah quickly. Help me fill this out. If somebody has 1 up to 4 camels, how much zakah do they pay? Anybody who has the answer, speak.
No zakah.
No zakah. طيب. Next threshold, Ibrahim. Next threshold. It's revision for you guys. 5 up to. Yalla, Sheikh. Yeah. 5 up to
5 up to 9.
5 up to 9. What does he pay?
1 sheep in zakat.
One sheep. And then you've got 10 up to 14. Umar from India, how much do you pay?
They paid 2 sheep.
2, and it's Shah. Okay. 15 to 19, Naeem.
3 sheep, Sheikh.
3 sheep. Next, Umar al-Madani, 20 to 24.
4 sheep.
How many?
4.
4, huh?
4.
Not 24. 4.
4.
4, Ahsan. طيب, next threshold. This was the last lesson we took. Ibrahim, from 25 till
35.
35. What does he pay?
A female camel between 1 and 2 years old.
Ahsan. Mintu, what's it called? Makhad.
Makhad.
Ahsan. Mim, Kha, Alif, and Dad. Right? Next threshold. Who's here? Omar from India. 36 to
45. Bint
45.
Laboon, which is
Bintu Laboon.
2 years old and less than 3 years old.
Ahsan. So if somebody is holding 40 camels for the year and the sa'i comes to collect and he counts 40, then he will take 1 Bintu Laboon. Okay? He'll take it to Baytul Mal. Bintu Laboon. Next threshold, Naeem.
Sheikh, it's 1 female from the ages of 46 to 60. It's
Not
1
the ages, from the number of sheep, the
Right.
number of camels. Yeah.
Sorry, Sheikh. Yeah, from the number 46 to 60 camels. It's 1 female camel that is 3 years old.
What's it called?
I didn't get the name, Sheikh.
Hiqqah. Ha, qaf with a shadda and ta. Look here. He, and then you got a shadda with a fatha. Hiqqah. Okay. Right. The last one we took, Umar al-Madani, 61 to 61 to
61 sheep.
61 camels up to how many? 75. What do they pay, Umar from India?
They pay 4-year-old female camel with
What's
teeth.
it called?
Jaza.
Jadha'a. So far we've taken from here, and why are we taking it slowly so you people don't get confused? So we used 1 lesson to take this, and we said here the person is paying sheep. Okay. Then we took another lesson to do this, and we said here a person is paying 1 camel each. Now you're getting to the thresholds where a person is going to be paying 2 camels. So generally from your zakah now that's coming, you're going to take, according to the Hanafi madhab, you're going to take from these. So there's no more like a 6-year-old camel going to come or 7-year-old camel. No, it's going to be spread amongst these, what we've taken so far, between sheep and 1-year-old, 2-year-old, 3-year-old, and 4-year-old camel. So the next threshold you get is from 76 to 90. Let's write in black. Okay, let's just write in red. 90. Anybody read ahead? How much do you give? How much do you give? Anybody? Nobody? Here you give binta laboon. 2 of these. So can you see here is bintu laboon with a dhamma, and here to make it dual, to show 2, it's ba noon. Did you move my thing, Sheikh Masa? 1 second. Binta laboon. Ba, noon, ta, and laboon. So here, if a person has 80 camels, for example, they're going to give out 2 female camels that are over the age of 2, not more than 3. Okay. And then from here, you're going to go to from 91 to 120. Okay. Here you're going to give حقتان. حقتان. So look at how instead of 1 you're giving 2. Okay, so which ones are these? These are these ones. Here you're giving 1 and here you're going to give 2. Here you gave 1 and here you're going to give 2. Can you see? Now, once you've learned this, what's going to happen? Your next thresholds are going to be like this. And this again, we'll take in another lesson. You must take slowly, slowly, and then you must master it once. You read your notes, then you don't have to carry on. Sometimes people they read through things. You can always read and you can understand in the moment. But when you're seeking knowledge, you have to read it, master it, memorize it, and then inshallah, you don't have to go back to it. Then you'll find inshallah in the next lessons, we'll be taking from 120 going up. 120, and then you're going to go all the way up to 150. So not one time, there's tafsir in here. So from 120 to 150, you're going to see the Hanafi madhab, they start again. And they're going to say from 120 to 125, you take 1 sheep along with hiqqatan. And then you get 2 sheep. The minute you get another 5, so 126 to 130, all the way up till they get to 150. And then after 150, generally the nisab stays the same for every 50. So for example, 150 to 200, you learn it, and then 200, 250 is the same thing plus the previous one. So example, then 200 to 250, and we'll take that in the next lesson. So hopefully in 3 more lessons, you would have covered zakah in camels fully. Why I'm just telling you this is so you get an idea that we're not adding more and more and more different ages. No, these are the ages we've taken so far. We've taken sheep and we've taken these, and now you're going to either be giving 2 of these or 2 of these. Then here you might be giving a few sheep and 3 of these, and then here everything starts stabilizing from 150 to 200 and 200 to 250, and it will go up in 50s. You'll see. As for the other madhahib, as you take, generally from after 120, they have a fixed rule. So they are much easier. For now, take the Hanafi madhab, as I told you. Then when you go back, you take the different madhahib. And one of the benefits of this, especially when it comes to money matters in today's world we live in, is when you take from Hanafi madhab, Shafi'i madhab, Maliki madhab, Hanbali madhab, you're able to understand a lot more when it comes to things which are new masail, contemporary masail. Why? Because at times you may find in this mas'ala, the whole ummah is following the Hanafi madhab, and then another mas'ala, the whole ummah is forced to follow the Hanbali madhab. So when you have that encompassing view of it, inshallah, it will make you a better person and a better student. Any questions with regards to what we've taken? I know it was very little, but you must build on what we've taken. Take it slowly. Any question?
I have a question.
Yeah.
For the jaz'ah,
Yeah.
it's 71 to 85, right?
No. Jada'a, sorry, this is an Arabic 6. It's not a 7. So this is a 6 in Arabic. In English, that's a 7. 61 to 75. No, what did you say? 71 to 85.
Yeah.
No. So this is 61. And I told you that up to 24, everything's going up in 5s. And then here, the first 2 go up in 10, roughly. If you count 25 to 35, it's actually 11. If you count on your fingers, you'll see, because you're counting 25 also. But roughly, it's you're increasing here by 10. And then these 2, they increase by 15. And then this one increases by 15 also. And then this one increases by roughly 20. Can you see? So the more wealth a person gets, then you find that they give more zakah. What happens, in fact, that's another lesson. I was going to ask you, what happens if a person comes to take, he has to pay hiqqah, but he only has bintu labun. What happens there? And if he has to pay jadha and he only has this one, what happens? Inshallah, you'll take it. Masail that are coming. Any other questions? No questions. I want to ask Naeem. Naeem, if you've got a farm here in Zimbabwe Okay? And you've got 20 camels. Now, let's say you've got 25 camels here in Harare, the capital. And then in South Africa, which is another country, more than 1,000 kilometers away, you also have a farm there, and you've got 25 camels. And then in South America, you've got another farm there. And okay, let's just leave it as 2 countries for now. You've got 25 camels here in Zimbabwe and 25 camels in South Africa. What zakah do you pay?
Is it one feminine camel that is 3 years old, Sheikh?
No, how do you count your zakah? Do you count this one and that one, or do you look at them separately?
I would think that you look at them together, Sheikh.
Okay, what happens if in Harare, Zimbabwe, you've got 2 camels, and in South Africa you've got 3 camels? You pay zakah or you don't pay zakah?
I would presume you do pay zakat, Sheikh, but I'm not.
You would presume what?
I presume you do pay zakat. But
Any other answers? No one wants to try. Inshallah, you'll take this mas'ala. It will come. I just want to know if any of you have read ahead. Also, when it comes to partnership, you've got people holding different farms around the country, and the farms are far away. You've got partners. At times, the partners agree that these 20 goats are mine, or these 20 camels are mine, and these 20 are mine. And at times they go into partnership without having separated whose is whose. So a lot of the times you find that, okay, from this group of 40, you own half and I own half. So there's masail that come with that, and the rulings change. At times you pay more zakah, and at times you pay less zakah. Well, inshallah, stop there. I want to move this out.
What book is this in?
So you see, if you're going to stick to a book, you find that the masail at times are not in order. That's number one. Number two, you might find masail that are from the olden days. And number three is the reason, or the main reason why I didn't stick to any book, is because when you're coming to do fiqh second time around, and you're going to the Shafi'i madhab, for example, their tartib, the way they've written the book, will be slightly different. So instead of mentioning shurutul zakah, they might start off straight with zakatul ibil, and the Maliki madhab and Hanbali madhab. So in order for you to get the masail all in one way, what I did was I went to the main Hanafi books, and I told you, Hanafi fiqh, you go to Al-Quduri, Al-Hidayah, Al-Ikhtiyar. Those are your famous mutun, where the masail are mentioned, and you've got at times explanation or dalil. They're not going to difference of opinion with the other madhahib. At times they mention the difference of opinion inside the madhab itself. And if you want to get a little bit extra detail, then you go to Radd al-Muhtar or Hashad ibn Abidin. That's in the Hanafi madhab. So generally I'm taking from there. Then when you come second time round to the Maliki madhab, you can take from 3 or 4. You've got Al-Ashmawiyah, Al-Izziyah. Those are like beginner level. And then generally the matan that's well taught, or taught everywhere in the Maliki school, is Mukhtasar Khalil. And then Shafi'i madhab, people start off beginner level with something like Safinatun Najah or Matan Abi Shuja'. And then they move on to Manhaj al-Tullab, Sheikh Zakaria al-Ansari, then Minhaj al-Talibin lin-Nawawi, and one of the best shuruhat. In fact, one of the best explanations you can read in fiqh is Mughni al-Muhtaj, al-Khatib al-Sharbini, because he mentions mas'ala, and a lot of the times in the higher explanations, they may mention difference of opinion between themselves and the other madhahib. Hanbali madhab generally got Umdatul Fiqh, Zadul Mustaqni', Muntah al-Iradat. So from those masail, when you open these books, you find generally they're going in the same order. At times, one book may give you a piece of benefit that's not in the other book. At times, one book may explain the mas'ala such that you may not understand it, then you go to the next one and you understand it. At times, somebody may give you a benefit that's not there. So generally, that's currently how I'm going. So if you want to find these masail, right now what we're taking, you can go to Hidayah, Al-Ikhtiyar, Kanz al-Daqa'iq, and Hashiyat ibn Abidin. What I do is I read for you guys, and then I try to give you the summary of what they mention. And inshallah, you guys will get to a level where your Arabic is good and your understanding in fiqh is good, then you'll be able to dive in. Also, what's another important thing to mention, we're not too focused on evidence at the moment. Why? Because we are learning. We're not giving fatwa. So when you start off generally in fiqh, there's different ways of learning. One recommended method is to try and go over the masail of fiqh as they are. Just mas'ala. What's the ruling on this? What's the ruling on this? What's the ruling on this? Roughly how we're taking. Then you can go a step deeper. Second time around is where you're taking the mas'ala as well as its evidence from the Quran or from the Hadith. It's the second level. Then you go deeper, where you take the mas'ala, evidence, then you've got difference of opinion inside the madhab. Then you go to the next level where you're taking the mas'ala, evidence, difference of opinion with one madhab and the other madhahib. And a lot of the times you'll find the deeper you read, the a'immatul arba'a, the four imams might even agree on something, but you find maybe a difference of opinion with Sufyan al-Thawri, Dawood al-Zahiri. These were also famous scholars and some of their madhahib, like Zahiri madhab. It's there, but not as well followed. But at times, you may take a mas'ala or two from there. So yeah, it's quite deep. It's not as simple when people say, oh, and I explained this to you guys, where people say, oh, but this is the dalil, and why are you not following the dalil? It's not as black and white as that. And one of the reasons for that is you got a piece of evidence. At times people debate, is this authentic? Some people say it's authentic and some people say, no, according to me, it's not. Same when you've got, let's say this group of people, us, and amongst us, one of you has an opinion that, oh, this teacher is good, and another guy has an opinion saying, no, the teacher is all right. Already, the way you are perceiving this person, you're going to judge them differently. Same when it comes to the piece of evidence, they may agree it's authentic, but then how do you interpret that? And I had mentioned to you about qat'iyul lafz, qat'iyul dalalah, dhanniyul lafz, dhanniyul dalalah, etc.
Yeah, I was kind of confused because he kept saying going ahead in the readings. So like, what's the readings?
Going ahead in the
readings. You were saying that in the
they're going
previous.
ahead in a masail that will come. Yeah, inshallah. Yallah. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Inshallah, today we're starting with tafsir. Now, what you've got to understand is a lot of the Sahaba radiallahu anhum, they took the explanation of the Quran obviously directly from the Messenger sallallahu alayhi wasallam. At the time, there was not many people who wrote. There were not many people who kept a lot of notes. Yes, some Sahaba did and some didn't. But what you did find is, and getting back to fiqh, because a lot of ayat in the Quran, about 500 odd, they called ayatul ahkam. They speak about fiqh. And then you find different Sahaba who sat with the Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam at different times, may have took different understanding, and they may have moved to different places, and they found that in order to apply this knowledge, they took a certain opinion or they understood it a certain way. And this is same when it comes to tafsir. So tafsir of the Quran, you find that in the Quran, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is generally speaking about himself. That's a part of the Quran. Speaking about worshipping him alone. He speaks about lordship. He speaks about his great names and attributes. Another part of the Quran, or second part of the Quran, is where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions stories. The stories of the Anbiya, the stories of some of the tyrants, etc. Third part of the Quran is halal and haram, which is your fiqh basically. And that's why it's mentioned that Ibn Abbas radiallahu anhuma said, you could divide the Quran into three categories. The categories I mentioned, there's Allah speaking about himself, your aqidah part. And then you've got your halal and haram, which is your fiqh, and then you've got your stories. Inshallah, we'll start off with Surah Al-Fatiha. Why Surah Al-Fatiha? Because obviously every single one of us recites Surah Al-Fatiha in Salah. Surah Al-Fatiha, as we all know, is the greatest surah, the greatest chapter in the Quran, as is in the hadith of Abu Sa'id ibn al-Mu'alla radiyallahu anhu, where he says one day he was in the masjid with the Messenger sallallahu alayhi wasallam, and the Messenger sallallahu alayhi wasallam tells him, should I not inform you, or should I not tell you about the greatest surah, the greatest chapter in the Quran before you leave the masjid? And then they were walking, and then he asked him, you know, what's this surah? And the Messenger sallallahu alayhi wasallam said, it's Surah Al-Fatiha, As-Sab'ul Mathani, wal Quran Al-Azim. So this is the greatest chapter in the Quran. What's the greatest or the most powerful verse in the Quran? Anybody?
Is it Ayatul Kursi?
Ayatul Kursi, ahsant. One of the reasons for this is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala again is mentioning himself, his power, his might, his great names and attributes. And what's the first verse to be revealed to the Messenger sallallahu alayhi wasallam? Anybody?
It was Iqra bismi rabbika alladhi khalaq.
Ahsant. So always differentiate between these three. First verse to be revealed is Iqra. The most powerful verse in the Quran is Ayatul Kursi, and most powerful chapter or surah is Surah Al-Fatiha. Surah Al-Fatiha is translated as Al-Fatiha, the opening. Why? Because when you open the Quran, you find that the Quran begins, it opens with Surah Al-Fatiha. Also, you find when a person begins their salah, they begin by reciting Surah Al-Fatiha. With that, and inshallah we'll get into the masail. Is Surah Al-Fatiha compulsory to recite in salah or not? Umar, do you have a question? Or can we carry on?
No, never mind.
No question. Okay. If you look at Surah Al-Fatiha, you find that the main topics that are mentioned in the Quran are all summarized in the surah. And as I told you, one of the sayings of Ibn Abbas radiallahu anhu, he says that you could divide the Quran into three categories. If you had to look at the topics of the Quran, what does the Quran cover? You find that there's generally 7 topics. Number 1, lordship. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala speaks about himself. Number 2, prophethood. Allah speaks about the Anbiya alayhim salatu wassalam. Number 3, the day of judgment. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala speaks about the last day. Number 4 and number 5, Allah speaks about the reward of those who do good as well as the punishment of those who disobey him. Number 6, Allah speaks about halal and haram in the Quran. And number 7, Allah mentions stories in the Quran. So when you look at Surah Al-Fatiha, you find that you're able to derive all these topics from this surah. And somebody who mentioned this in his tafsir is Ibn Juzay al-Kalbi, rahimahullah. In his tafsir, he mentions this in detail. If you go to the last part of Surah Al-Fatiha, you'll find it. The scholars differ when it comes to Surah Al-Fatiha. A few different masail. And again, look at how fiqh is also involved. Is it compulsory to recite Surah Al-Fatiha in Salah? The Hanafi madhab, they say that Surah Al-Fatiha is recommended to recite, but not compulsory. So if a person, example, let's say Allahu Akbar, and they didn't recite Surah Al-Fatiha, let's say they read a verse from the Quran, they said it's okay. As for the other 3 schools, the other 3 madhahib, Maliki madhab, Shafi madhab, and Hanbali madhab, they all said that Surah Al-Fatiha must be read in Salah. And some of them count it as a pillar of the Salah, as you'll take later. They then go on to differ as to who should read the Surah Al-Fatiha. Remember, they're saying it's compulsory. Is it enough for the Imam just to recite Surah Al-Fatiha, or should those behind him also recite Surah Al-Fatiha? The reason I'm saying this is just so you guys know the difference of opinion, because sometimes you go somewhere and somebody might ask you, oh, do you read Surah Al-Fatiha behind the Imam? This guy says, yes, I do. And this guy says, no, I don't. The other one says, no, I keep quiet. The other one says, I read until the Imam stops reading. All these are opinions, fiqhi opinions. And you find generally everybody's got their piece of evidence. So you guys should be aware. And generally these are the masail that come up when speaking about Surah Al-Fatiha. So you find some of the scholars mention that it's enough for the Imam to recite Surah Al-Fatiha as long as he recites it. Those behind him don't have to recite it. Then you find others who say, no, the Imam recites as well as those behind him, they also recite. And then they say that, do you have to read Surah Al-Fatiha in every single rak'ah, in every single unit of prayer for it to be valid, or is it enough in one rak'ah? And all these are fiqhi masail which you'll take. Only reason I mention it is if you open a book of tafsir that's quite in-depth, like Al-Qurtubi, Al-Tabari, you find they mention these masail. From the names of Surah Al-Fatiha is As-Sab'ul Mathani, the 7 verses which are constantly recited, i.e. in Salah. From the names of Surah Al-Fatiha and from its virtues is, it is Ash-Shifa, it is cure. Cure for the heart as well as cure for physical ailments. It's mentioned in the hadith that once the Sahaba radiallahu anhum, some of them, they were passing a village and the village refused to host them, to take them in. And eventually their chief, the person in charge, got stung. They got stung with, it could be a scorpion, a snake, anything. And they tried their best to save this chief, to cure him, but they couldn't. So they then told the Sahaba, is there anybody who can do ruqyah? And one of the Sahaba said, yes, I can do ruqyah. And he went, he recited Surah Al-Fatiha, and this person was cured. And obviously, he made a condition for them to say that we'll do this ruqyah on condition you give us something. So they gave them some sheep. This hadith shows us that bi'idhnillah, Surah Al-Fatiha is a cure. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has put cure in the surah as well as in the Quran. The scholars all agree that Surah Al-Fatiha is 7 verses long. In fact, most of them, the general agreement is Surah Al-Fatiha is 7 verses long. However, they differ as to where these 7 verses are. So some people say Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim is an ayah of Surah Al-Fatiha. Hence they would read Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim, Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen, Ar-Rahmanir Rahim, Maliki Yawmiddin, Iyyaka na'budu wa iyyaka nasta'in. Then here, Ihdina as-Sirata al-Mustaqim, Sirata alladhina an'amta alayhim, they join. Min ghayri al-maghdubi alayhim wa lad-dallin. And as for those who say it's 7 verses, but Basmalah is not a verse from the Quran, you find that they start Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen and they read every single verse. Thereafter, you find that those who speak about Surah Al-Fatiha in the beginning of many books in tafsir, they start to give you the explanation of isti'adha. What's called isti'adha, where you say A'udhu billahi minash shaytanir rajim. All the scholars agree that this is not a verse from the Quran. A'udhu billahi minash shaytanir rajim is not a verse from the Quran. However, it's an order from Allah. Allah says, فَإِذَا قَرَأْتَ الْقُرْآنَ فَاسْتَعِذْ بِاللَّهِ. When you want to recite the Quran, i.e. before you recite the Quran, then seek Allah's protection, seek refuge in Allah from shaitan. A'udhu means al-taji'u. Literally, I'm seeking protection from Allah. I take refuge, billah, in Allah, from min ash-shaytan ar-rajim, from shaitan. And ar-rajim literally means the one who is far away from all goodness. And then a person says Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Literally it means Bismillah, in the name of Allah. It could mean in the name of Allah I begin or I read. And Ar-Rahman and Ar-Rahim, 2 names of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. One has a greater meaning than the other. So Ar-Rahman is more encompassing. One opinion is it means Allah himself is merciful, and Ar-Rahim means his mercy reaches the creation. Another opinion is Ar-Rahman is he is merciful to every living thing, and Ar-Rahim means he has a special mercy for his believers. What you'll also find is when it comes to Basmalah, those who take it as a verse from the Quran, at times they recite it loudly in Salah. So you find when they begin and they want to recite, instead of starting Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen loudly, they start Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim loudly. And the scholars all agree that this Basmalah is a verse of the Quran in Surah An-Naml. Speaking about the story of Sulaiman, Allah says when he wrote to the queen of Saba in his letter, innahu min Sulaymana wa innahu bismillahir rahmanir rahim. So they all agree there it's a verse of the Quran. As for is this Basmalah a verse of the Quran at the beginning of every single surah or not, here they differ. And generally you'll find those who say it's a verse, they recite it loudly, and those who say it's not a verse from the Quran or from the beginning of the surah, they won't recite it loudly. We're a little bit short for time, but inshallah next week we'll start going through the whole surah, and we'll go through some of the fawaid and some of the benefits. Also, what I would encourage you guys to do, there's the Quran, its meaning, its tafsir, its translation. Then there's also what's called tadabbur, reflection, reflecting over some of the verses of the Quran. And at times a person may come with a reflection or benefit that's correct, and at times it may be something questionable, and at times it might be wrong. But you would need to be quite well versed in it at times to bring out these reflections, and at times anybody can bring out a reflection. Like, for example, some scholars mention that if you look at Surah Al-Fatiha, you find that it's at the beginning of the Quran. It's a short chapter, and immediately after this short chapter, and this short chapter serves as an introduction to the Quran. Immediately after this, you find that the long chapter starts, Surah Al-Baqarah and Al-Imran. So they say that this shows us that generally your introduction, when you're speaking, should be short and precise and to the point, and then you get into the detail. How did somebody derive that benefit? Just by pondering, by reflecting, and by looking over the Quran. And generally it was a habit of the scholars. You find there were those who, a lot of them, they would finish the Quran every 3 days. Some would finish every day. There's those who finish the Quran in 1 rak'ah, like Uthman radiallahu anhu. And then there's those whom it's encouraged to finish at least, I won't say at least, but it's encouraged to finish every 7 days. And if a person is unable to, at most, then every 30 days to finish the Quran once. And if somebody's still learning how to read, learning how to recite, you can listen to the Quran, listen to the meaning wherever you're able to benefit, because at the end of the day, أَلَا بِذِكْرِ اللَّهِ تَطْمَئِنُّ الْقُلُوبِ, it's only by the remembrance of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala do the hearts find satisfaction and ease. That's the word of Allah. Imagine if a person lived for so long and they know everything when it comes to the dunya. They know everything when it comes to money. They know everything when it comes to health. They know everything when it comes to technology. They know everything when it comes to all the worldly things. Yet, when it comes to the most important thing, which is knowing Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, how embarrassing would it be for a person to meet Allah and say, you know what, I knew all these things, but I didn't give time to actually even understand what you or my creator were trying to tell me. Hence, it's extremely encouraged to go through the verses of the Quran, and inshallah slowly we'll go through these verses, and inshallah I'll write it out for you guys. We'll edit it, add to it, and hopefully you can have a few notes on these ayat, inshallah. Any questions? Any question? No question? There's one more topic that goes hand in hand with your tafsir, and that's called usul al-tafsir. There's certain rules when it comes to tafsir. There's certain schools when it comes to tafsir, and you find there's certain prominent Sahaba who's like Ibn Abbas radiallahu anhuma. He's generally, you find he has an opinion almost everywhere, because he was also known as Turjuman al-Quran, a person who was given great understanding and intellect when it came to the Quran and understanding the Quran. And you find there's Ibn Mas'ud radiallahu anhu, Ali ibn Abi Talib radiallahu anhu. You find generally their opinions are quite famous in most of the verses. Then you've got from those who learned from them, for example, Mujahid ibn Jabr and others. So in Usul al-Tafsir, you get a little bit of a glimpse of the different madaris and where they were situated, the different asanid, the different chains when it comes to tafsir. And you know how we were taking Mustalah al-Hadith? Generally, if you open a book in tafsir, you'll also find these chain of narrators, these chains giving an opinion, what something means. Ibn Jarir al-Tabari, he gives an opinion, he says this means this, and we heard it from so-and-so, 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 and he mentions up to An ibn Abbas or from the Messenger sallallahu alayhi wasallam, etc. It's an interesting topic. No questions? Right.
I have kind of a question. So
Yeah.
we're gonna doing usul tafsir right now.
No, right now we'll start off with Arabic for level 2. If there was more time, inshallah, if we could sit for 3, 4, 5 hours, we could do everything. But slowly but surely, we'll get there. Right. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. This is Al-Arabiyyatu bayna yadayk. We had started this book with the first batch of students, and mashallah, they completed this book and they're on book 1B. You find that those who are able to read in Arabic, they're able to write in Arabic, and that's a lot of Muslims. However, a lot of times they're unable to understand, they're unable to speak. So if you look at this book, this is one of the famous books taught all over the world in different Arabic institutes, Al-Arabiyyatu bayna yadayk. It gives more of an emphasis on spoken Arabic. There's a lot of pictures in the book. There's a lot of repetition. There's a lot of role plays, etc. And you'll find that with practice, here they give you an exercise, they teach you a concept, and then they make you practice it, write it down, practice with somebody else, and then they go to the next thing and the next thing and the next thing. So there's great benefit in it. Then you've got in some institutes where they use the Medina Arabic books, those are more, even though there's a lot of spoken Arabic in it, but they concentrate more towards Arabic rules as well as grammar. So if a person is able to gather between this one as well as that one, so if you take the spoken Arabic from here, and then you went to the Medina books and you took the main rules, which is your grammar rules, etc., then you find that inshallah you'll go quite far. What I would encourage you guys is, as you're starting off this course, we're starting with the second group of students. First group of students, mashallah, they started, and whoever wants their recordings, they're online. Second group, what I would encourage you is to always be present. Wherever you're unable to attend, then make sure you listen to the recording immediately. Because what will happen is, if you miss a day and then 2 days and 3 days, it's very hard to catch up. And that's in all your subjects generally. So look at zakah. If somebody missed the previous lesson, how would they understand this lesson? So this is Al-Arabiyyatu bayna yadayk. You find that this book also got tapes to it and CDs. So if you want to listen to the role plays. Now there's a few important pages before we actually start the book, and I want to show you these pages quickly. This here. Right. Here, this is page, it's roughly about page 17, somewhere there. Here they're giving you every single module that's in this book and what they're trying to teach you. So here you've got first module. What are they trying to teach you? At-tahiyyatu wat-ta'aruf, literally how to greet and introduce yourself, get to know people. Then they give you, they break this big title down into smaller specifics. So you learn ilqa'u at-tahiyya, how to actually greet someone. At-ta'rifu bi nafsika wa bil akharin, how to introduce yourself and how to introduce others or get to know others. As-su'alu 'anil balad wal jinsiyya wal ism, you learn how to ask somebody about the country they're from, their nationality, as well as their name. Then you also learn questioning words, al-istifhamu bihal, min ayna, ma. And then you also learn ismul ishara, how to say this and that. So if you guys carry on going back to this, just so you know that, okay, this lesson, they want me to do this. Also, don't expect yourself to understand everything or to memorize everything. You will forget if you take 30, 40, 50%. But with practice, inshallah, you'll find yourself only increasing. So this is an important page, especially when you're revising. You remember that, oh, I learned about my family. Where should I go? And then you come back here to module 2 and you'll say, okay, this is what I learned, and you get into it. And with this comes here, they give you, again, this is from page 1 to 26, literally your first module. They give you some of the other skills they want you to pick up. So one of them is al-aswat. They want you to know the different sounds. What's the difference between a kha and a kaf? And they give you some words to read, just so you're learning how to differentiate between these two. They're also teaching you how to listen, how to be a better listener, al-istima'. And they also teaching you a little bit of spoken Arabic, where you are asked to speak with one of your peers, one of your classmates, also teaching you how to read and also teaching you how to write. So if you look at it here, you've got the first module, they're telling you what's in the module, and then they're also telling you some of the skills they're trying to get to you. So inshallah, if you go through this before coming to the lesson, inshallah, you'll find great benefit in it. Right. So we'll start straight off with module 1. There's some exercises where they ask you to write. What I would encourage you guys to do is write out those exercises if you need me to see them, or if you want to put it in the group. The students who are from the first batch, they'll also be able to see and help you out. Whatever you don't understand, ask. This is a lot of reading, a lot of repetition, and inshallah you'll start to understand. Who can read? Sheikh Ibrahim, Bismillah, start. I'll help you translate. Start reading.
Al-wahdatul uli.
Ula. So always remember this thing that looks like a ya. When there's no 2 dots, you pull it like a mad. Al-ula, it's called alif maqsura. And if there's ya, you will say uli, but there's no ya, there's no 2 dots. Al-wahdatul ula literally means your first module. Then next, what do you have?
At-tahiyyatu wat-ta'aruf.
Ahsant. What's at-tahiyyatu wat-ta'aruf?
I don't know.
At-tahiyya is where you're greeting somebody. And at-ta'aruf is literally getting to know people, introductions, etc. And as you can see from the picture, you've got 2 guys shaking hands. I want somebody to be Khalid and somebody to be Khalil. This is the first exercise. So what they're trying to do, they're giving you the conversation, they're giving you the words at the beginning. You're going to learn a little bit of vocab, and then as you practice, you'll find 1, 2, 3, 4 weeks, you'll find your level goes from 5%, you'll go to 15%, 10%, and you just have to carry on progressing. Khalid will be, you guys have been here before. Sheikh Saeed, you can be Khalid, and Umar Al-Madani, you can be Khalil. Yalla, Khalid, start.
Yes.
Bismillah. Yeah.
Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam.
Carry on.
Ismi Khalid. Masmuka.
So
Khalil.
you understand what you're reading. Yeah. Assalamu alaikum, alaikum salam is your greeting. Ismi means my name.
Yes.
Ism means name, and the minute you add this ya, it means my name. So this guy is saying, my name is Khalid. Then they're teaching you how to ask Masmuka, what is your name? So in this sentence already you've got, they're teaching you how to ask what is your name. And you start off with a ma. So you carry on. Khalil.
Khalil. Ismi Khalid. Khalil.
Just raise your voice a little bit. ارفع صوتك يا شيخ عمر. عمر
اسمي خالد.
اسمي خليل. أحسن. طيب carry on.
كيف حالك؟
بخير
Means
والحمد
كيف
لله.
حالك means
How are you doing?
أحسن. How are you doing?
خليل بخير والحمد لله وكيف حالك أنت.
Translate.
It means I'm good.
بخير. Oh, sorry.
I'm good and alhamdulillah. And what about you? How are you too?
Yeah, and how are you? Carry on.
بخير والحمد لله.
Ahsan. So here, remember, wherever you got what's called Hamzatul Wasl, join it. So you skip this and go straight from the waw to the lam. So you say walhamdulillah instead of saying wa alhamdulillah. It's called Hamzatul Wasl. There's some Hamzas which are compulsory to read. That's called Hamzatul Qat'. It's always there. Then you've got Hamzatul Wasl, which you're able to skip at times. Ahsantum. Well done. Now here they're giving you a role play between two ladies. You've got who's new? Umar from India. Naeem, you wanted to do revision. Yalla, iqra. One can be Khawla, one can be Khadija.
Assalamu alaikum.
وعليكم السلام.
اسمي خولة. ما اسمك؟
No, so again, Hamzatul Wasl here. Skip it. Say
Masmuka.
Masmuka. Masmuki. Sorry.
ما
Feminine.
اسمك؟
اسمي خديجة.
كيف حالك؟
بخير والحمد لله. وكيف حالك أنت؟
بخير والحمد لله.
Ahsant. طيب, let me ask you, Sheikh Saeed. I'll converse with you and you reply, okay? Assalamu alaikum.
وعليكم السلام.
كيف حالك؟
بخير. بخير الحمد لله.
Ask me, how am I?
كيف حالك؟
أحسنت. كيف حالك؟ كيف حالك أنت؟ بخير والحمد لله. So can you see, you guys understand this? Now it's just about practicing and repetition, and then inshallah you get it. Then here they giving you exercises, and they also want to teach you something. Look at how here there's two men speaking. Here there's two ladies speaking. And look at how when you're speaking about a person, when you're saying how are you, when you're speaking about him or her, when you're speaking about you, either it's masculine or feminine, you find that in Arabic we differentiate between these two. And at times it could be just by a slight fatha or a slight kasra. So if you look at this, when this person asked Masmuka, what's your name? He's speaking to a man, there's a fatha there. And he asks him, Kayfa haluka, how are you doing? So this kaf is a dhamir, it's got a fatha on it. And when the two ladies are speaking, Masmuki, you've got a kasra there. Kayfa haluki, you've got a kasra there. So immediately you already learn that in Arabic, in your words, you differentiate between what's masculine and what's feminine. You also differentiate between what's singular, what's two or dual, and what's plural. So that's what they're trying to tell you here. They're saying, Undur, look at this exercise that's coming, and saying, Wastami' wa a'id. Wastami', if you have the tape, listen to it and repeat. A'id means to repeat. So these two, because they are men, they're saying, Kayfa haluka. So one man asked the other man, how are you? Same question, but amongst two ladies, Kayfa haluki. And if this man was asking this lady, he would still say, Kayfa haluki, how are you? So immediately you already see that we differentiate between masculine and feminine. Then you've got words in Arabic which are masculine and feminine. Same when it comes here, you've got anta and anti. Anta for masculine, anti for feminine. And you've also got here masmuka and masmuki. Masmuka when you're asking a man, and masmuki when you're asking a lady. طيب. Sheikh Saeed. Next one, they're telling you sil. Sil means to join. بين العبارة والصورة المناسبة. Join between the phrase as well as the correct picture. Tell me, first one, it says masmuka. Where does it go? Which picture? If we say this is now picture 1, picture 2, picture 3, picture 4, picture 5, and picture 6.
Picture 3.
Picture 3, these are two ladies.
No, the two guys. The third one.
Which one? This one?
Am I looking in the wrong way? Masmuka, the two guys in the right corner, right above corner.
Yes. Ahsan.
Oh yeah,
So
yeah.
these two, yeah.
Yeah,
The
yeah.
same leg exercise. And Masmuki would go where?
One picture above.
Ahsan, here. So this way, this they're telling you in this corner. Right, Anta and Anti. Umar from India, where does Anta go?
Anta goes with the second picture on the
Yes, this
above
guy is
line.
telling him, pointing him and say you. And Anti,
And the second picture beneath it.
أحسنت. And كيف حالك عمر المدني?
كيف حالك it is the picture is with the two men.
Two men, huh? This one. And كيف حالك? Two ladies. That's here. طيب التدريب. Now they're giving you these exercises. These exercises, if you guys can print them out, if you have a copy of the book, or even if you don't want to print them, write them in your book. Assalamu alaikum. So here you're learning how do you answer these questions. طيب Naeem. Assalamu alaikum.
وعليكم السلام.
أحسنت. طيب Saeed, tell me. I'm going to ask you كيف حالك?
بخير الحمد لله.
أحسنت. طيب. Then if you've got a lady, Assalamu alaikum wa alaikum assalam says the same. كيف حالك? Umar from India.
بخير الحمد لله. بخيرين الحمد لله.
Alhamdulillah. Ahsan. So look at how they responded in the same way. كيف حالك? كيف حالك? Why? Because they're trying to teach you that if you're speaking and you're using the word him, her, you, masculine or feminine, you differentiate. But generally, when you're speaking about I or we, when the person themselves are speaking, it works both ways. So كيف حالك and كيف حالك is a question either posed to a man or a woman, and they both reply as بخير والحمد لله. مسمك اسمي, for example, Ahmad. Here اسمي Khalid, example. مسمك اسمي Aisha, and اسمي Khawla, as example. And here you're getting into your second role play, where they're going to speak about which country a person is from. I think we can take this. You want to stop here? There's something I want to explain to you guys before we stop. Something important to explain. So in the book, we'll stop here, but there's something I want to explain here. This is very conversational. First exercise, very simple, easy. Next one, also very easy. But then the minute you get 3, 4, 5 exercises in, you find that you've benefited a lot. So for example, let's say this is a staircase, and you're going up like this, you're going up like this, you're going up like this. So first lesson, you might have learned like 1%. You might have learned one thing new. And the next lesson, you learn 2 things new. The next lesson, you learn 3, another thing. So every day, if you just learn something new here, and something new here, and something new here, and here, and here, and here, after the whole week or 7 days, you've already learned 7 new things. And generally, you'll find that these 7 new things then lead to more things. So each thing, for example, lesson number 1, you might have learned something of benefit. Then it ties up to another 3 things. And then lesson number 2, you learned another thing which is beneficial. And then you find it ties up to this. And that's generally how you find people gather knowledge. That's why one of the scholars, he mentioned, إِنَّمَا جَمَعْنَا هَذَا الْعِلْمَ بِالْحَدِيثِ وَالْحَدِيثَيْنِ. We gathered all this knowledge by 1 hadith, 2 hadith. I.e., every day we took a little bit here, a little bit here, a little bit here. And over time, we were able to gather this knowledge. Those who are new, there's a few things I want to mention to you. Right now, we're just learning vocab. We're learning how to speak. We're learning how to converse with somebody. As you learn, you start seeing that every word that I'm taking in Arabic, it's either a noun, which is called an ism, okay, ism, or it's a fi'l, which is a verb. So you got a verb, fi'l, or it's a harf. Some people call it a particle, harf. Now, why this is slowly you start seeing, you'll be able to differentiate that, okay, Khalid, for example, is a noun. And then to go, ذهب, he went, is a verb. And slowly you'll start seeing that the nouns have certain rules. And then you start seeing that the verbs have certain rules and the huruf have certain rules. And then slowly you start seeing that, okay, why am I saying Muhammadan sometimes? And why am I saying Muhammadin sometimes? And why am I saying Muhammadun sometimes? That's all to do with your grammar. That's changing. So slowly you'll start getting into that. And eventually you'll start learning, okay, how, if this is the past tense of a word, how do I get the future tense? All that you'll go into, inshallah. You'll also take Dama'ir, how to say he and her and who and she, etc. And you'll go into all that, bi'idhnillah. Any questions so far? No questions? I think it's quite simple, quite easy. Just attend every day and we'll try to go through the book quite quickly. Some exercises you'll have to do at home. And if you're able to read before you come to the lesson, that would be great as well. Any questions or you want me to ask you guys? No questions. Naeem, tell us something of benefit that you learned this week. Share with us something you learned this week. It could have been at your shop, it could have been on the internet, it could have been anywhere. Tell us.
Sheikh,
in 2 minutes, tell us quickly.
what did I learn that's of benefit?
Okay, we're giving you 1 minute to think. Alam Gheer, tell me something you learned this week.
Yeah, first of all, Sheikh, about the names of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the correct answer. And secondly, the introduction, the rulings for zakah,
Yeah, not
like you mentioned,
but
in
not necessarily from the lesson. It could be from anyway, whatever you learn. Shaykh Ibrahim, something of benefit that we can all benefit from.
I learned yesterday that there is three types of people when it comes to sadaqah. The first type is they're willing to give away everything. Second type is they're moderate. They keep some, but they have a share for poor people.
Sent.
Last one is they only do the zakat.
Okay, tell me, what's the ruling on giving away all your wealth? Let's say somebody today has got $1 million and they say, I want to give everything away. What would you tell them?
I don't know the ruling because it was some Sheikh of mine, he was teaching Ulum Deen, and he only covered that part so far. And
Sheikh
he
Saeed,
also,
what would you say? Somebody today, they come and they say, I want to give all my wealth away in charity. What do you say?
I would say that wouldn't be a smart thing to do, because that wouldn't be kind of like smart with regards to the future, because you need to take care of your family. You need to have something, some savings for when things might go wrong. Or I wouldn't advise.
I ask you a question. So what if this guy then tells you that, but I read in the hadith that Abu Bakr as-Siddiq radiallahu anhu, he came one day, Umar radiallahu anhu wanted to compete with Abu Bakr. And they both went to the Messenger sallallahu alayhi wasallam. And the Messenger sees that Umar radiallahu anhu says that I've come with half my wealth and I left half behind, and he's happy about it. And he then asks Abu Bakr, what have you given? And he literally says, I've given everything. As for my family, I've left behind for them Allah and his messenger. So what if he says, I want to do that?
Wow, yeah, I haven't thought about that actually. So I don't know.
Who has an answer? Alam Gheer?
I think, Sheikh, from the Fiqh perspective, it's not allowed to donate all of your wealth.
But he's saying here, Abu Bakr as-Siddiq radiallahu anhu gave all his wealth.
Sheikh, I think we can't compare the Sahaba were, I mean, they were of a different level, So I think
any other answer?
The Sheikh yesterday also told us that it depends on the person, because Abu Bakr's family, was they were all top of the top, and there's also the factor of how easy it is to make money. He mentioned about
he himself was a businessman. Ahsan,
yes.
Well done. So it depends on the person. And that's an opinion, one of the answers given to this question, that it depends on the person. If a person has strong iman, I wouldn't say iman like Abu Bakr as-Siddiq, obviously he was one of a kind, but person has strong iman, strong belief, and he's somebody who's he's a business person. He's given his wealth today, but he's got so many things that are bringing in money, or he's able to then go out and make it again, then he can do that. As for most of the people, you'll find that, as Sheikh Saeed said, that you would look to the future. Also, you would look for your children. At times, people want to give all their wealth away when they reach the age of 70, 80, and they know that now they're going to die soon. So instead of leaving anything for their children, they give everything away. And the Messenger ﷺ tells one of the Sahaba in the Hadith, he says, it's better for you to leave a little bit for your children, to save them from having to stretch their hand to everybody to ask. So as you mentioned, it depends on the person. And you find there's people today who've given all their wealth from the Muslimin, and you find that Allah has given them, but it's not for everybody. Inshallah, I think we stop there. 10 o'clock my side is a good time to stop. Anybody wants to say anything? 2 minutes? Nothing?
Yeah, I would say, Sheikh.
Wait. Yeah, what do you want to say?
Yeah, I just want to say that today's class was very much exciting, because things making sense to me almost 98% since you have started the level 2. I was able to pick up from the level 3 as well, but this is making me more sense.
And you'll find generally, if you're thrown in the deep end anyway, it will take you a while to swim. You'll swallow a little bit of water for those who are starting to learn how to swim, but inshallah, you'll eventually swim. I'll tell you a story of mine, and I'll end off with this. And I think I told you guys that when I first went to Medina, there's many different sheikhs, and generally when you get there, it's very hard to find a sheikh starting from the beginning of the book. Then if it's in fiqh, you might find somebody on the end of Kitab al-Zakah, or Kitab al-Adahi, or Kitab al-Sayd. So what do you do here? Somebody who knows absolutely nothing, probably not even Arabic, never heard of some of the masail in fiqh. I met one brother, and he told me, he said, you know what, just sit in the lesson and write. Even if you don't understand, start learning how to write, start learning a little bit of Arabic, start listening to the masail. And subhanAllah, it took me a while, but after that, I found that this started to make sense, this started to make sense, this started to make sense. And then when you take fiqh a second time around, you find a lot of it makes sense. So my point is that even if you find a lesson, somebody's lesson online or in your local masjid or anyway, and you may be coming at the middle of the book, it's okay, don't worry, you learn a few things. And that's why you find that some Sahaba, who narrated 1 or 2 ahadith, because they only spent a little bit time with the Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam. But these ahadith became famous. They became ahadith that some of the main masail built upon. There's some Sahaba who only joined the Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam later on in life. Abu Hurairah radiallahu anhu, yet he narrates the most ahadith. So it's not when you start, but it's about starting, and it's about taking the opportunity you have. When Umar radiallahu anhu was in Medina, he was paired with one of the Ansar, and because they were living quite far, they would take turns to go to seek knowledge. So one day Umar would go to the masjid of the Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam, take knowledge, and come and share with this guy at home, his partner. And then the next day he would go, the Sahabi from the Ansar, he would go and learn, and then he would come and share with him. And whatever goodness you find, wherever there's goodness, occupy yourself with that which is of benefit. Naeem, give us your benefit that we gave you 5 minutes to think about.
Yes, Sheikh. I think I was reflecting more on, the few funerals that have taken place this week in our community. And I think you mentioned something early in the week that, that the Prophet ﷺ wouldn't pray for a person that had, I think it was 2 dirhams of debt.
Yeah, a few dirhams, yeah.
Yeah, so I thought, I guess the lesson was just to be mindful of making sure, obviously, that we don't put ourselves in debt unless there's an absolute necessity. And
yes.
we do put ourselves in debt, obviously just have the niyyah, the intention to pay back immediately or as soon as you can.
So you have the intention of paying it back. Obviously, you borrow for the right reasons. That's number one. Number two is that sometimes people take on debt. We're not here talking about interest or anything. We talking about people who taking good loans. People take on debt at times, but they have the assets to back it up. So you find somebody taking on 100,000 from another person, and they know they're going to buy goods, etc. They haven't squandered the money. So if this person had to die, you're still able to sell the goods, you're able to sell the house, you're able to sell whatever, and inshallah pay this person back. The more major problem happens when people take on money and then they squander it, they lose it. That's number two. Number three is they take on money, may Allah help us all, they take on money and they die, and those around them don't know what they owe. Hence, when it comes to your will, some of the scholars mention if you are owing money or you are owed money, in this instance, it becomes compulsory to write your will. In case anything happens, that property that we have down there, we're still paying for it. Example, that property we have down there actually belongs to me. Sometimes a person in their lifetime, they may not tell their children, those heirs, the inheritors, that, we own this. And what happens is after they die, we don't know who the building belongs to. We find that people who are supposed to inherit that don't get that because we don't even know that asset existed. That's why some of the scholars mention when it comes to your will, if you're owing or owed money, it's compulsory for you to write. And if you're not owing or owed money, it's still encouraged for you to write. So for example, and then you can write in your will, when I die, I would like this to be done for me. I would like some of my wealth to go here, etc., etc. It depends. It's another topic on its own. So yeah, as you mentioned, that death can come at any time. Again, today I was sitting with somebody about 40 odd. He was just telling me that, when you reach 40, he said, you'll just see life is so different. You can go at any time you can go. And you can go as a teenager, as a child. But yeah, that's time, and time moves on, and we all have to pass. May Allah make it easy for us and make us from those who have left beneficial knowledge behind, sadaqat jariyah, and pious children who make dua for us. Yallah. Nobody else got anything? See you guys tomorrow.
Sheikh.
Nah.
I want to say Jazakallah khair for this class and letting me join in the group.
Amin wa iyyakum. When I told you guys, if you know anybody who is a good student, call them. We benefit from them, and inshallah they can benefit from us.
I don't know if you can see me right now. I just wanted to show myself. I want to show my
MashaAllah.
face, just letting you know who it is that's actually joined. So
MashaAllah.